all to this week's episode of Echo from the Buttes. I'm your host, Tom Harden, standing in for David Howman. With me are Andrew Hazlett and Austin Bundy. And later on this episode, we will have a special guest joining us to give his insight on the upcoming hockey series against Miami. But before that, it's been a crazy few days in the portal. It seems like every hour there's a new announcement coming with a new incoming transfer for Arizona State. I just want to go around the room. We'll start with Andrew. Who's been your favorite pickup since we last talked on Monday's show?
That's a good question. There's so many to choose from. It's like asking me what my favorite dessert is, as we've had many good food conversations on the show before, but we're not going to get into that right now.
This would
I'd
be the
have to
time to
say-
do it. David's not here. He can't fight us.
We can have the proper takes.
I'd have to say the running back that just came in the other day. I saw the story about him saying, "Hey, I'll sleep in the airport if I have to, if that's what it takes to come here." If we're getting that type of want, that type of will from players, I think the skill's gonna come, and that says more to me than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you love seeing guys that want to be with a team and that are driven to just do whatever it takes to be a part of that team. Austin, we kick it to you. Who's been your favorite pickup so far?
I think Andrew was right talking about David Abbott, but I think I'm going to go with probably the biggest splash we've gotten so far, which is Reed Harris, wide receiver. The wide receiver room for Arizona State is stacking up to be one of the most talented I think we've seen in quite a long time. That's got to have people really excited, especially if we're going to have a quarterback room now with some pretty serious talent. There's going to be a serious quarterback competition going into camp next year with Fetty coming in, Cutter Boley transferring in from Kentucky, and now Mikey Keene from Michigan. That's going to be pretty interesting to see which one of those guys comes out on top to start the year in August. But they're going to have some really, really talented weapons to work with, and I think everyone's just going to be crossing their fingers that the chemistry is going to be there, people are going to stay healthy, and this could really turn out to be a special Sun Devil team.
Yeah, the wide receiver room is highly enviable, and it just begs the question, Austin, you brought this up off the air. Is this the kind of situation where just there's no chemistry going on between the players and everything comes crashing down? Or is there another repeat of last year where the injury bug just strikes without mercy, and you see guys not get the playing time that they're brought in for? That's my worry about how this is going to be.
I'm not worried about the chemistry. We saw Texas Tech this year bringing a lot of guys in the portal. They won the Big 12, convincingly the best team. Say what you want about the college football playoff and how the teams have buys losing in the second round, if you want to attribute that to anything or not, but they still got there. That defense held a very good Oregon offense to less than 20 points, if memory serves me correctly. Offense obviously didn't click to score anything, but they still had a good season. Were the most dominant team in the Big 12, and they brought in a bunch of guys from the portal. Joey McGuire was able to make it work. I think Kenny Dillingham can do the same. It's like you guys said, injuries do scare me, but injuries are going to scare you with every team that exists. And so if you lose key pieces like we saw this year, you're gonna not be as good as what you thought you were.
I'm going to live fact check you there. The Oregon scored 23 or 26 points, I think, against Texas Tech. But, I mean, that's well under their average this season. They were like 37.4 points per game, something like that, top 10 in the nation offense. I mean, like you said, they brought together a lot of guys in the portal. You would think it would take a transition year to get all these guys to work together, but they really made it work. And let's see what happens here for Kenny. We can work his magic.
Austin, you bring up the stacked quarterback room that Arizona State's going to have next year, and I'm keenly excited to see how the quarterback competition is going to work out in spring practice as well as up at Camp Arizona, because you're not going to see a guy like Cutter Boley come in just to sit Mikey Keene not going to come in just to sit, but you have Jake Petty waiting in the wings. You have Cam Dyer, who's already been on this roster for a full season. I'm just, I'm excited to see how Coach Dillingham, the quarterback whisperer, gets the best out of each of these guys, and whichever quarterback is able to show the most out of themselves to set themselves apart from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. I was surprised that they brought Keenan from Michigan. Local kid, played some games, state championships in Sun Devil Stadium, part of the AAA. When he was on Fresno State, the Bulldogs did come down and beat Arizona State in Kenny's first year a lot to 0. Jalen Moss was also on that team. So if Mikey Keene is the starter week 1, maybe him and Jalen Moss might have a good connection that they can rely on through the season. We talk about all these receivers coming in, and Jalen Moss might be the best receiver on this team next year. I think a lot of it's depending on who's the quarterback and a lot of other factors in as well, but that's something to keep an eye on too.
I can confirm what you're talking about with Fresno State. I was there for that game. A lot to 0. Can confirm that was the vibe that night.
I just conveniently forgot the second half of that game ever existed. I was present, but we'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. No need to go too much further into that.
That was the one game I was not present at that season for ASU football home games.
You picked a good one to miss. I can confirm that. But for all the quarterback talk, Arizona State did bring in an important offensive line transfer just this evening, within the last hour or so, coming in from Georgia Tech, Tana Alo Tupuola, much needed interior lineman. We saw like we said, the injuries coming through on the offensive line last year. Tupuola will definitely be a much needed boost to the line coming off of last year, and give these quarterbacks something great to throw behind.
Yeah, when I was naming last episode of transfer portal needs, I think I started off with offensive line. I don't remember. Memory could serve me wrong there. But there was a lot of needs, and getting offensive linemen was one of them. I still think they need a few more just to get that depth in that position, because Kenny Dillingham likes to play 6-7 guys each game. That's something that just rotate in the fresh bodies. That's his philosophy, and right now at this point, I'm not sure they have that. So I think we'll see a few more players. They'll get a few more offensive linemen out of the portal.
And some of the other additions that have come in since our last show, and I'm sure there's going to be maybe a dozen more that we'll have to talk about on the next episode. But looking at safety, Lyric Rawls, cornerback Ashton Stamps. We've also got punter Nick McClarty and kicker Carson Smith. It's already being reported that Arizona State has one of the top incoming transfer portal classes for this offseason. Would you guys agree with that, just at face value off of who's been coming in so far?
Yeah, I would say so. Just around the board, a lot of needs have been filled already with this transfer portal class. I think they're definitely good at quarterback. They're probably not going to bring in another running back. Receivers, they could still probably bring in a receiver or two possibly, but who knows with that. But I feel confident in that group. I feel confident with the special teams now, with adding a punter and a kicker to the room. Defense, I still think there's room to work on, but I think the expectations will be met for me.
Yeah, you mentioned kicker there, Andrew, bringing in Carson Smith from Austin Peay. A lot of people might not look at that and be like, oh, like that's who you want to replace Jesus Gomez with. But, I mean, he was the conference specialist of the year there. I mean, as much as it's the FCS, if he's accurate, he's accurate. I mean, You can't ask for much more with a kicker. I mean, obviously, it might be a little bit of a different atmosphere going into Mountain America Stadium, a little louder, going into some of these Big 12 environments. You got to train him. I mean, I feel like even in the FCS, there are some pretty rowdy houses you got to go and kick in. So, look at his stats. If he is accurate, that's all you can ask of this guy. I think it's a great pickup.
Austin, I do have a question for you. I don't know if you know the answer for this. Is Austin Peay's stadium natural grass or artificial turf?
Yeah, it's college football stadium surfaces is a little bit outside of my expertise, but I can find out. Why not? Let's go to the Google machine for that one.
Because I asked because if you're going from turf to grass, I don't know if there's a huge difference there, but if you're going from grass to grass, I'd imagine less of a transition.
So Forterra Stadium is hybrid synthetic turf, according to Google. So he is going from a synthetic surface to natural grass here at Mountain America Stadium. So, I mean, from what I have read in the past and what I've seen just watching games, there is a difference when it comes to the surface. But I think at the end of the day, like, it's something you can train for. He's going to be practicing on natural grass a lot. I feel like you got to be versatile anyways, because you're only playing half your season in your home stadium anyways. And if you're going to be going to other fields have synthetic turf. I'm not sure how many of the Big 12 fields have any synthetic turf on them, but I feel like there's at least a couple that, I mean, you got to just be able to play on both. Like, you just got to be able to do it. And I feel like that's something that you practice. That's something you can train for. And ultimately, it's going to come down to your holder, right? Like, we all know laces out, but I mean, if the surface is going to be impacting that, it's just your holder's got to be used to it. Kicker's got to be used to it. That's something I think they'll be able to drill into them.
Yeah, I'm looking at just an overview of the surfaces in the Big 12. It looks like it is a pretty even split between natural grass and artificial turf. TCU and Iowa State are some of the natural grass fields, but Texas Tech, Kansas State use some form of artificial turf. So it lends well into your point that not all stadiums are created equal across the Big 12. So you've got to have that versatility to be able to adapt to any playing surface. But with all this transfer portal news, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it sometimes. I find myself just looking over my shoulder, almost seeing, okay, who's the next report to drop, and just keeping my phone alerts on for any news. I'm sure anybody listening to us is doing the same thing. We have our transfer portal tracker at devilsindetail.com. We'll have comprehensive updates on every player who comes in for Arizona State football throughout this portal window, which ends on January 16th. We'll move on from football here.
Can I ask you one last question before we jump into the hardwood? I want to see, what do you guys, I mean, you guys have been following the Sam Levitt saga here, jumping from, he was visiting Texas Tech, then he was visiting Kentucky, then he was seen courtside with Lane Kiffin at Baton Rouge. That apparently did not go well, and then the whole DeMond Williams thing. Will he leave Washington because of that? Then he's not leaving Washington, he's coming back. It just seems there's a whole lot of drama and chaos that is just influencing a lot of these big portal moves, and Sam Levitt's kind of gotten caught up in the middle of it. He's still the number one rated quarterback in the portal, but you would think the number one rated quarterback in the portal would have landed someplace by now. So do you think, if the reports are to be believed, that his trip to LSU did not go as well as you would hope it would, do you think Lane Kiffin maybe bites the bullet here and sticks with the number one quarterback in the portal, or is Sam Levitt going to have to go and look elsewhere for a new home?
I mean, Sam Levitt did visit Tennessee recently. I think he might be singing Rocky Top, You'll Always Be Home, Home Sweet Home to me soon. So we'll see.
It's hard to nail down anything in the Sam Levitt saga. I too have been seeing the links to Tennessee in the last day or so, but I think Days of Our Lives has much less drama than the Sam Levitt situation. It wouldn't surprise me if he landed at LSU. It wouldn't surprise me if he landed at Tennessee. It wouldn't surprise me if next week there's a completely other target that he's landing at that we haven't heard of. But at the end of the day, despite all the ongoing stories, rumors, whatever is going on in the Twitter sphere, I do wish him all the best for his career wherever he does land. It's without him, it's hard to say that 2024 would have been as much of a success. So I have nothing but good thoughts for him for the rest of his career.
Yeah, second that. I think Tennessee would be a good fit for him. I'm a little surprised he didn't try out Auburn. I feel like that was the one spot I feel like he might have, at least with the Kenny connection to Auburn. I'm surprised he wasn't set up there, at least having a visit or something. But, I mean, I think we all kind of knew an SEC school was going to be his destination at the end of the day.
I thought it was going to be Oregon at the end of the day, because where did Kenny come from? Oregon. Where's home? Oregon. I thought the pieces of the familiarity and the close proximity to home would have sold it, because Oregon is a good program. They're still in the college football playoffs as we record tonight on Thursday. They could be out within days of this. So if you're watching way later, we don't. So they could even be national champions. So I thought the writing was on the wall to go to Oregon. That's what I felt going into all this.
I think despite Oregon being home for him, he did play for 4 different high schools in 4 years in his career. It's hard to exactly pinpoint where home truly is for him. And I think, if memory serves me right, there was a little bit of friction between his camp and Oregon in his early recruiting days. I don't remember all of the details, but I seen there's something sticking in my mind where there was just something leaving bad taste in his camp for Oregon. So that may be a consideration, even though there's not the same personnel, so to speak. It's still more of just a bad memory, and that may be pushing him away from the Ducks.
I don't know if I'm Mandela affecting myself here, but I thought home was Utah for him. I didn't think I could. I don't know why I didn't think. I thought it was Utah, not Oregon.
His dad played for BYU and I believe Utah State in his collegiate career. So there's where the Utah connection comes in.
I got it. There you go.
And I think his brother played for Utah State too. If memory serves me right.
I think so. Yeah. So there's a high degree of Utah connection there with the Levitt family. So not quite a Mandela effect for you. Just again, hard to pinpoint where exactly home is. We'll take a pivot away from the gridiron and go to the hard court. Both women's and men's basketball were in action on Wednesday night, and we'll start with the women. What a bounce back for women's basketball after their first loss of the season, playing UCF at home from Desert Financial Arena, and it was a very convincing win over the UCF Knights, 68-45 final. Guys, to me, this was exactly the kind of showing that Molly Miller's squad needed to put on to push that loss into the rearview, say, hey, we went through this, here's what we learned from it, here's how we're moving forward the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I know UCF isn't the strongest of teams. I know they weren't last year. They were kind of one of the quote-unquote pushover teams in the Big 12, if you ever want to use that term. And I would imagine that would continue this year. I don't follow women's basketball as much as I do other sports because I'm just not a big basketball person. But at the end of the day, this is what ASU, if ASU is going to be a powerhouse, these are the type of performances that they have to have against these weaker teams of the Big 12 at the end of the day. You got to dominate. You got to take care of business, especially at home too. when you have that home court advantage at Desert Financial Arena, you have to take care of it.
I think Andrew's completely correct. Like, this is a game, 16-1 or a 15-1 ASU team going into this game against a 8-6 UCF team. It's absolutely a squad you got to beat up on exactly the way that they did. You can't have any mercy. You can't play down to your opponents in this situation. Molly Miller is coaching up this team exactly as we had hoped. And I think going further into Big 12 play, they're going to be serious contenders for a Big 12 title when come tourney time. I don't know if they're going to hold up near the top of the conference standings and get a regular season title, but if this team is going to play like this going into the end of February, beginning of March, I don't think anybody in the Big 12 is going to want to run into them in the tournament bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. This team is turning out to be a very, very tough draw throughout the season. Teams are going to be circling Arizona State on their calendar as the season progresses. But looking at the box score for last night, 3 players in double digits in points. But what stands out to me the most is just how much Arizona State put the pedal down in the second half, putting up 42 points after the halftime break and pulling away and just running away and hiding from UCF. That's you kind of saw the 6-point lead after the first quarter trimmed down to 5 points at the half. To be a fly on the wall during the halftime conversation, no matter how high energy, no matter what the tone from Molly Miller and the rest of the coaching staff was, but something was said that lit a fire under this team in the second half, and they absolutely took off.
Great coaches know how to make adjustments, no matter the sport, and I think we're seeing that with Molly Miller. I think we saw that with Kenny Dillingham in football as well. ASU hockey, I think, is really good in the third period in particular. I don't have the stats to back me up on that, so I could be wrong. But as of late, they feel like they've been clicking in that period, especially overtime. So that's what these great coaches do, and I think we're seeing it out of Molly Miller. This is not a mirage in the desert. This is the real thing.
Good coaches know how to make adjustments. Great coaches know how to make adjustments when you're winning at the half. I mean, you see so many teams go into halves with leads like that and get complacent. The other team may come back into it a little bit, and then ultimately they scramble, and the team that was leading at halftime wins the game. Molly Miller is a great coach because she went in there and told them something and saying, great job, scoreboard's got us up, but this, and this we're not doing right. Clean it up. They cleaned it up, and boy, did they play like a dominant team like they should have when they started to make those adjustments. That is the hallmark of great coaching, hallmark of getting your team to play to its potential. Nothing is ever good enough.
This kind of performance, it sets up, in my mind, really well for a tough matchup on Saturday at number 13 ranked TCU. I for one liked seeing a team with that tenacity and, like you guys have both said, the ability to make adjustments at the half, and great coaching staff that brings out those adjustments. How do you think this team's going to shape up against a highly ranked TCU team on the road?
I think if the ASU wants to win, they got to come out swinging. They got to keep the score close, within like 2, 3, 4 points, something like that, and just keep it close. Just stay in there, and then at the end of the game, pull out with a victory. Just I think eke it out at the end. I don't think this is going to be, if ASU goes on to win, I don't think this will be a convincing victory by any means, because TCU is a good team. You have to acknowledge that. So it'll be a small win, and I think it'll be a back and forth game. Got to stay close in the first quarter if you want to have a chance.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is a game where the winner of these types of games is the team that comes out and punches the other one in the mouth. ASU has every opportunity to go up to this TCU team and tell them, we are not afraid of you. We can play up to your level. We can play better. So, yes, you want them to keep it close, but if Molly Miller gets them jacked up enough to where they can go out there, really punch them in the face and take a lead and hold on to it, great. But this is also the type of game where you don't want to go out there and have TCU punch you in the mouth first and get out to that large lead. So as Andrew was saying, if you can keep it close, if you can tell them, no, we're competitive, we're not going to let you push us around on the court, that's going to send a message, especially if going into halftime this thing is closer than their coaching staff wants it to be. And at that point, you make your adjustments and you go out there and you play your heart out, and you're probably going to come out on top.
I agree with you guys on all the points you've made. It's, just like you said, come out swinging, keep it close, and just make it a back and forth game, and really just don't give in to the whatever you want to call it, hype, the allure. Just play your game, stand your ground, and make it a battle against the Horned Frogs. That game will be on Sunday at 3 p.m. Arizona time from Fort Worth. Flip it on over to the men's side. They were also in action last night, if you can call it that. On the road at BYU, and
you can do it. You can call me out. I'm the one who said they were going to win the game. I was the optimist here.
Austin, you were wrong.
Very wrong.
104-76 final. I don't even know where to start with this one, guys. This is kind of, on the surface, it almost looks like just steering into the lame duck season for Bobby Hurley. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No correction needed.
Yeah, losing by, what is that, journalism math, 28 points? I know BYU's a great team. Don't get me wrong. But losing by 28 points isn't good. I don't care who you are. So at this point, ASU needs to reassess. And if this team has something in them, they have to show it against Kansas State this weekend. Because if they don't, then I think Hurley's clock is ticking. To be honest, it's been ticking, and I think that would speed it up. And Hurley's the most successful coach in Arizona State basketball history, most amount of wins. That can't be overlooked at the end of the day. But what he hasn't done anything in the past few years, and if he doesn't do anything this year in the Big 12 tournament or make the NCAA tournament, I think his time here might be done. And I wish nothing but the best for him. I think he would be great as an assistant coach under his brother, and maybe a head coach somewhere else eventually, like a smaller school. He was great in Buffalo to start off his career, so maybe he goes back there. We'll see. But I do think you can't overlook his whole tenure at Arizona State if and when he gets fired.
I'm just imagining the Hurley brothers on the same sideline, and just the heat map of emotion that will be coming during any given game.
They've done it before. They started off together.
It's just, I'm just seeing a white hot pinprick in whatever arena they're playing on a given night. But Andrew, you bring up his collective career at Arizona State. There is no denying his overall success, but it's the not only the "what have you done for me lately" argument, but it's more the "what do you have to show for the success." And by my count, there's a handful of first four appearances. I think one appearance in the round of 64, but aside from that, there's not much postseason success. Correct me again if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, the only thing that would have been interesting to see how that 2020 team did. That was cut short due to COVID. A lot of people believe in the Arizona State building that might have been Hurley's best team. I know if everyone likes to play the hypothetical, what if COVID didn't happen? But this is one where it would be interesting to see, are we talking about how Arizona State basketball is a contender these years if COVID doesn't happen and that season doesn't get shut down? Because who knows, maybe that Arizona State team is the one for Hurley that gets passed around to 64, makes a small run, and puts the Sun Devils on the map. We'll never know because this isn't the universe we're living in. So that would be curious to see from me. But other than that, he hasn't shown anything.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is college sports are always a what have you done for me lately, and not getting blown out by a team, even if it's a top 10 team. Anytime they drop 100 points on you, that's gigantic cause for concern. That's morale dumper in the locker room. Kansas State this weekend, I will dare to say it, is a must-win, not for the program, but for Bobby Hurley. I would not be surprised if they lose this game. If there are not even rumblings, I would not be surprised if they dismiss Hurley for a loss this weekend, even though, I mean, as much as he does have that command respect, let him finish out the final year. We all know, like, this is like a lost year, moving on type of deal, but there comes a point where if you need to, like, jolt a locker room, you need to send a message type of deal, like, this is a must-win for the program. I feel like you cannot lose this game this weekend to have any kind of respectable rest of the year.
I'm generally not one who is in favor of firing a coach mid-season, no matter how lost the season can be. I think that the program would be a little bit better served just letting Hurley finish out the season. But that's just me. That's the sentimental side of me. I just don't like seeing coaches cut loose unless there's extreme reason to.
And another thing is, and this is financials. Is it more? Does it cost you more money to fire him now or after a certain point, whatever that point is? I think at the end of the day, the best interest in the university is the cheapest route, whatever that is, because saving money is always a good thing. If you can use that to help get a better player next year in recruiting, that's something that can help you. Or if you were to do the opposite move in going the more expensive route, if there's a buyout there at this point, you might lose a guy because you don't have that money that you spent on his buyout. At this point, it's the final year in his contract anyway. Like Hurley knew coming into this year he was on kind of a prove it year, and at this point, he hasn't proved anything to me, at least.
Yeah, when you're in the final year of your contract, I don't think there's any buyout. So, like, cheap is like you could fire him now and like pay him whatever the remainder is, or you could let him coach the rest of the year and you're still paying him the same amount. So I think it's at point is do you let him finish? Do you want Bobby Hurley to continue coaching the program? Is going to be Graham Rossini's decision, depending on how bad this thing gets down the stretch.
I feel like if it is going to be a mid-season firing, I feel like he's got at least 2 more games left in him. I only say that because after Saturday's game at Kansas State is a matchup in Tucson against the number 1 ranked Arizona Wildcats. I think that game might be Bobby Hurley's last show if it is as impressively bad as the performance at BYU on Wednesday night. But that's all speculation, neither here nor there at this point. We're not the ones making that decision. Thankfully, I wouldn't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
You don't want us making that decision.
Athletic Director Graham Rossini, if you're listening, I have the utmost respect for you and these decisions that you have to make.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I think he's shown it before with who he's hired, who he's let go in the past. Keeping Megan Bartlett after, what was that, the 2024 season for softball, and seeing what they did this year, making the tournament for them, a good tournament around for them. So he's shown he knows to trust the right people at the appropriate times to trust them. So, like
we said, Kansas State against Arizona State from Desert Financial Arena, Saturday, 1 p.m. tip-off. We'll see if our thought process is right in terms of how long of a leash Bobby Hurley has in his final season. We're going to take a very quick break here. We have our guest coming in, Matthew Buhrmann, representing the Miami Redhawks for the Hockey Writers. So we'll bring him on and have some preview of this weekend's series for you.